Hey, everybody. Welcome to Camel City Chat. I'm your host, John McPherson, and I am here with my guest, Pam Anglin. Pam is a mercenary in the nonprofit world, but I think you call yourself a consultant, correct?
I think consultant's a little more professional.
Come on, Pam. So we've known each other for years, and we're going to get to that. But of course, with Camel City Chat, Pam, there are 3 questions. Get it in there. There we go. 3 questions. The first of which is my favorite answer ever to this. Where are you from and how long are you in Winston?
Oh, wow. So I am from a tobacco and livestock farm in Madison County, North Carolina.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, if we have to. From
right.
the mountains of North Carolina. Came down here in the mid-90s to go to college at Wake Forest University.
We're going to talk about that.
Never heard of Wake Forest. Did not know anything about it, but applied. Got in, got a scholarship, came down and settled in, and I've been here since the mid-90s.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you've been here since the mid-90s. Question number 2, where's your favorite place to eat?
This is the hard one, and I knew
now you're going to take the mayor's, I know what you're going to do. You're going to take the mayor's stuff. Oh, I just love, there's so many great restaurants, so I can ask questions like, where's the last time you and your family ate?
I saw him give that answer, and then somebody else would give really good answers. I hate to be my boys like going to BJ's, and one of our real good friends, Brittany, is a bartender there, and she always spoils us rotten.
Okay.
So I think the past year, BJ's has probably been our most frequently visited restaurant.
Located conveniently in the Haynes Mall parking lot.
I know. I hate to be so uncreative with it, but good people there, good food, variety, and the boys like it.
All right. Hey, there's nothing wrong with where you eat, okay? And then what is your favorite thing to do around the Winston-Salem area?
Oh, goodness. So this is going to be, since you just called me a nonprofit mercenary and consultant, it's going to be fun to say. My favorite things to do in this town is go to nonprofit fundraising events. I've got tons of friends that work for nonprofits, and we throw the best parties. And they are parties with a purpose, and we have a blast supporting each other. And we do everything from 5Ks to golf tournaments to galas to dressing up in costumes and everything in between. So it's not one thing, but it's the nonprofit fundraising events. That's where it's at.
Well, I want to talk about who you are because I've known you for years. Because I think that you are, can I say, an inspiration? If you allow me to do that. No, I mean, you are a single mom. You have succeeded. You have explained to me what the difference is between how to hang tobacco, and we're going to talk about that in the show. We had a great call yesterday, just kind of prepping up for this. And but I mean, you're somebody that people, if they don't know, they need to know you. And I'm making you very, very uncomfortable right now. I can see that. And my goal was not to make you uncomfortable, but I just think the world of you, Pam. So we're going to go back a little bit. Let's talk about how we know each other.
I think we figured out it's been 20 years, probably.
20 years. I think I had to turn in a background check or an application or something to you when you were.
You did a background check. I had to ask you a lot of questions.
I had to give you some money.
On you. Like, I don't know where you found 3 people that would say, yes, John is excellent to hang out with.
The money is coming in the mail again. So, but Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I mean, I would not know Chris Bishop and his family if it wasn't for you. Of course, I remember when we were at Wake Forest and they had the dance and Chris and Wallace were dancing, and, we're all looking at each other going, what the heck are these kids doing? But, so I want to get to how we got you to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, but let's go back. Let's go back to the mountains.
Oh, wow. I would love to go back. I miss my family.
So, there's a difference between how you hang tobacco in the mountains and in the eastern part of the state. So talk to me about growing up on a tobacco farm.
So it's funny that I did not learn how they grow tobacco in the Piedmont, to the eastern part of the state. North Carolina was a huge producer of tobacco for many, many years and several generations. My grandfather was the one who owns the farm. We raised several acres of tobacco, dozens of tobacco. acres. When I came to Salem, I found out that it's grown differently. So in the mountains, because it gets colder earlier in the year, we want to get the tobacco out of the field before the first frost.
Okay.
If you grow on a farm, you know about the Farmer's Almanac, and you know about planting and full moons and when you do this and when you do that. And I have to admit that my family knows it much better than I do. However, I do know how to do everything with tobacco because I did it from the time I could walk. We have had several discussions about what our least favorite part about tobacco is. The worms are kind of nasty. It's sticky. You get the tobacco tar on your hands. But when you cut it in the field, in the mountains, when you put it up to cure it, you cut it at the stalk, cut the entire tobacco stalk down, which can be 6 to 8 feet tall, sometimes taller than that. You put it on a stake, several of them on a stake. You load them up and you go and you hang them in the barn. Out east in North Carolina, they have to take the leaves off in the field. So where it's hot and it's sticky and we're
in
cutting
multiple places.
Yeah, so you just cut, you start at the bottom and you cut a layer off. You go through the whole field cutting off the bottom. Then a week or so later, you cut the next layer off, string it up, hang it up. So they have to stay in the field a little bit longer, taking the leaves off. But in the mountains, when we grew it, we cut the entire stalk off, hung it, let it cure in the barn. Then in the wintertime, we had to go back when it was cold and dusty and strip the leaves off the stalk once they're brown and then take it to market. So same plant, same kind of messy, sticky stuff.
So
a different process.
In the mountains, you cut it at the stalk and hang it. In the eastern part of the state, you started from the bottom. Now you're here. Yeah. Like my Drake reference there. That's pretty good. Wasn't it? No, all right. So you were a smart kid. I mean, you're still smart, but you were a smart kid in school. You did real well in school, correct?
For a mountain kid in a 2A high school, I was pretty darn smart. Yeah.
Right.
My family did not have a TV, so we read a lot. My mother and father were big on doing well in school and reading. So, I mean, without a TV, you literally had nothing else to do but work in the fields, read, and interact with your siblings.
Guidance counselor says you ought to apply to Wake Forest University.
Yeah, that's where the smart kids go, and we think you should apply because we think you could get in.
And you got in.
Wake Forest University.
You got in at Wake Forest University. They give you a scholarship.
Got a scholarship.
What'd you find out?
So I arrived at Wake Forest University.
Smart kid. Smartest.
Oh, yeah, I was excited. Beautiful campus. Beautiful. It was not that far from home, 2.5 hours. So pretty easy drive for my dad to bring me down. I had a sister at Carolina during that time. So he was able to drop us both off and make this work for the family. Walked out of my dorm one of the first couple of days and I smelled tobacco. And I said, okay, this may be a little different because by this point I had realized I'm not that smart because at Wake Forest, everybody's smart. Everybody was the smartest in their school. Plus I was thrown in with public school kids from the mountains, thrown in with a lot of private school kids, global students, students from all over. And I thought, I am not going to fit in here. Like, I just do not speak the same language. I do not work with the same currency and resources. But when I smelled tobacco, I said, I think I might make it in this town that still smells like home.
So you get there, you do okay your freshman year.
Yeah.
You do okay your sophomore year.
I mean, it was an adjustment. Found out how to
things change, but your grades change significantly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was an average student. I had gotten involved, made friends, joined the gospel choir freshman year, was playing club soccer, got to travel to the other universities in the state playing club soccer. That was a great experience. So played at Carolina. My sister came and watched me play. So great experience. But I also found a boy.
You met a boy.
And spent most of my sophomore year pregnant.
Right.
Had my first child in July, in between sophomore year and junior year.
And your grades changed drastically.
Yes. Well, he came back to school with me.
Mm-hmm.
Figured out how to live off campus and took him to class with me a lot my junior year. He was put in the daycare by my senior year. but I started making Dean's List. I mean, I was on Dean's List every semester after
Kicking
having
it.
him.
Kicking it.
Yep.
What did you tell me?
Crazy.
Why did you do so much better?
You know, people have asked me that, and they've asked, well, how did you do it all? I mean, how did you live off campus, work, be a single mom? And then that first year that I had him, did not have childcare because I was on a waiting list for a voucher to get this sounds familiar in our town because lots of people are on a waiting list currently for a voucher for childcare. He went with me to class, or friends watched him, and you just did it. Like, you had no extra time. Your focus is, it wasn't the lack of sleep that was helping me do better. It was just, what was I going to do? Be that college dropout, the kid that got the full ride and then didn't graduate? No, that was not going to happen. So do what you got to do.
So I will answer with what you told me yesterday. John, it wasn't an option.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you kicked butt. You had a gift given to you earlier than you probably planned on it.
Not planned, but not unwanted. Yeah.
Yeah. And, just proud of you. I mean, you just did awesome. And then when I found out you did Dean's List the last 2 years, and it's
Right.
amazing. Yeah. So
I was shocked myself when the letter came in the mail.
I missed my freshman year by I got a 3.23.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So 3.25 or something like that was what it was. And I told you, Appalachian, I graduated at 2.2 something, and I would have gotten I had to have 2.6s in all my classes. I had to go back and take a class that I'd had a friend, and it was hard to get up on Friday morning, and so I didn't do well in that class, but I raised it up. I got it up to a D or a C. I don't remember what I got in it finally.
And now do they care?
Oh,
Do you get asked ever, what was your GPA in college?
You know what's even crazier? So that class, because of that class, I had to take it again. When I took it again, I became friends with the professor. The professor did this little thing where he kind of used he basically kicked me out of class because I was wearing an American flag T-shirt. And then the discussion was, when I came back in, was like, did that bother anybody? And everyone's like, no one said it. Yeah, everybody's bothered. He goes, well, let's talk about censorship today. So I told him that ahead of time. I said, hey, if you're going to do that, I want to do that. I actually, as we've been talking, I got a text from him. The friend that sat next to me in that class was an NFL head coach. And so he and I are still friends because of that. And, so I'm keeping up with him and his family and how they're going through things. But, I wouldn't have been friends with him if I hadn't taken that class over again. And then, of course, as I told you, I went to Winston-Salem State, and I did much better there when I get my MBA.
Because you were paying for it.
Because I was paying for it, right? Mom and Daddy weren't helping there.
Yeah, right.
And it's amazing how things change. And when you went to Wake Forest, what was your major?
Religion and education. So I actually wanted to teach religion on the college level.
Okay.
I had come out of high school thinking I wanted to be a teacher. So took education classes, and
didn't know you would be one this late in life, did you?
I did not know I'd be homeschooling this late in life, for sure. But and that's what I say, is that I just wasn't courageous enough as these educators are today. I still have great relationships with people in the school system, teachers. My ex-husband is an administrator with the school system. Great relationships with tons of people in our local school system, and a huge advocate of education. But the next best thing for me was to go into nonprofit fields. I was still working with children, immediately landed straight out of college at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So that was my first job out of college, and it kickstarted my nonprofit career and really threw me straight into the community and every aspect of the community.
Started your mercenary career.
Get my business.
All right, so let's talk, because there's a couple reasons why I want you on the show. One is because I do feel like that you are an inspiration. You've taken a situation that some people could have thrown in the towel on and have turned it into your life now, your career. The motivation behind a son who did not have any interaction with his father, to getting him, getting kids in that same situation involved with, some excellent people in the community, and then some others that you scrape the bottom of the barrel for. But then now, of course, then your husband, your ex-husband at the time, of course, he has a great relationship with your second son, which is and your first son.
Right. He's raised both of them.
Yeah, I mean,
currently still raising both of them with me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I mean, that's just awesome that's all worked out. I mean, everything's happened for a reason. But I think that the thing that I want people to understand is right now, there are a lot of people that don't know what's going on with this. I think we're starting to open back up, and I feel that with, of course, everything, we're just a few days away from May 8th, but you have a grasp of probably 6 or 7 different nonprofits that you've worked for, been associated for, or consulted with. This is what I want to talk about today. Where you've worked and how is this going to affect them? So with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I mean, my biggest concern is we've got kids that don't have mentors that are around family, and that family may not always want them around.
Right. Right.
So,
I mean, it's our community is so weaved together, and you really could go through the list of places I've worked, and I've worked at some amazing places that work with amazing families. The great thing about our community, or the sad thing about what we need to provide for our community, is that some of these families I've seen at multiple organizations. I haven't lost relationships with some of these families. Being at Big Brothers Big Sisters and doing almost every job in that program, in that building, for 14 years and 8 months, for almost 15 years being there, I watched children grow up. I hired at Big Brothers Big Sisters one of the little sisters from my caseload to work there, and she worked there for many years. So it's families, the majority of the children on my caseload when I was a case manager there, when we first met, were being raised by their grandparents. These same grandparents are struggling to just buy medicine for themselves, and now they're having to raise grandchildren. And of course they need a big brother or big sister in the lives of these children. So I always say that at Big Brothers Big Sisters, the volunteers like you who would give up seemingly just an hour a week, but we both know that it ended up being much more than that. You sign up for an hour a week for a year, and you're still talking about Chris this day and his children.
I sent him a message a few days ago. I mean, but I mean, we're not that tight as we did. But when we were in Atlanta, the one time we were in Atlanta, I took my daughter and my wife. We went over and saw Chris and his wife at the time.
Right.
Went to his house, and I will tell you, he put me down as a job reference for his. He's a jailer now, and the guy called me, and I go, "Yeah, I'm his big brother." He goes, "Really? Tell me about that." But the two coolest things, whenever you're at a football game and you obviously, you guys would get Panther tickets or stuff and gave us Panther tickets. We're going down the aisle and somebody's like, "Oh, thank you for what you do." And I'm like, "Thank me? What are you talking about? I got free tickets to a Panthers game and I'm hanging out with my friend, and so, but we did.
And when you think about the world of you, I remember having a volunteer. She worked, retired from Salem, and she sent in her application, 76 years old, and she wanted to be a volunteer. She was a few minutes late. And I said, "Oh goodness, does she need a hard time, had a hard time waking up this morning or getting out of bed? What's going on with this lady?" Her yoga class ran over, so she was a couple minutes late, very active. And she said she and her sister would take turns picking music to listen to in the car.
Right.
So she gained a whole new, she's like, "I'm getting more out of this than my little sister. I don't know why she wants to hang out with me. I'm 76 years old. Why does she want to hang out with me?" And I'm like, "Because she's hearing things and seeing things she would never see or hear any other time in her entire life. And these things will stick with you." And to be able to list somebody as a reference, or to just have them a phone call away, right, or to be safe enough to ask a question. I remember when I first came to Wake, and this is why I related with the children so much at Big Brothers Big Sisters, not only being a single parent raising a boy, but when I came to Wake, a lot of the students would go out to eat all the time. Like they would say, "Let's go," one of the favorite places was Daryl's on University, if you remember that. It's no longer there. But that was one of the places Wake students loved to go.
There's one in Greensboro.
Let's go out to eat. And I wouldn't go because I had never ordered off a menu before. When I finally went, the only thing I felt confident enough to order was the chicken tenders. And to this day, I love chicken tenders. Nothing wrong with chicken tenders, but it's about confidence in what you had been exposed to. And those little brothers and little sisters that had bigs like you, I guarantee you, for many of them, that was the first time they left the city in a car, or they ordered off
my life.
Right.
And do you know how it changed my life? Because you guys let me do something crazy. And we talked to Eloise, and I don't know if you remember this because you weren't my caseworker at that time.
Right.
I flew Chris to Memphis.
Wow.
I wanted Chris to go to the National Civil Rights Museum to understand, and it helped me understand.
I've got
we
chills.
We ended up being in and I don't know if you guys know this, we were in a television show. We're sitting there. I took them to Rendezvous, and we're eating ribs, and they go, "Hey, we're doing a television show." And I'm like, "I don't care." And we're in this thing like called 2 Day Weekend in Memphis. You watch it. Chris and I are eating ribs in the background on a national TV show. And so we went to the Lorraine, saw where King was shot, learned about all that and everything. And, you know, it changed my perspective because I'm learning through not only my eyes, but his eyes. One of the big things I wanted to do was when Greensboro opened up was go. And I finally went to February 1st about a year ago and over to the museum there. I was the only adult with a third grade class. There was like all these 9-year-olds, and I'm following them around because that's the only time I could get a tour. So the only thing that hurt me was when they didn't know what a typewriter was. I'm like, well,
oh no.
You know, so, but I mean, it was a great organization. You swept the broom there. You did everything from sweeping the broom to running that whole organization. And so you left there. Where did you go?
So I left there and went to the Children's Museum. Fascinating thing is that it wouldn't have been a likely spot for me. My friend Elizabeth still runs Children's Museum, Kaleideum now, and has invited me to come back and serve on their board.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's got me back as a board member, but went there to help with their capital campaign.
Right.
I remember the day they opened and my older son being one of the first children through there and him climbing the beanstalk, and what a great facility that was for early childhood learning, for foundational skills, cognitive skills, critical thinking skills, taking appropriate risk. My mother was big on that, on learning through play, whether it's baking a cake with a recipe, but being on a farm, you learned a lot through play and work.
Right.
But those are foundational skills that get you ready for school. And you can be in my career of nonprofit fundraising and development and relationship building and never get to work on a capital campaign. So going to the Children's Museum to work on a capital campaign, it was a relatively small amount, $3 to $5 million. That's pretty feasible. And to be able to expand, and the idea was to take that beanstalk through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is exciting. This is a place for me. And really had a great time working with some excellent board members, and really getting to dip my feet back into the education field a little bit more. We did a lot of educational focused outcomes at Big Brothers Big Sisters, but the focus was on the relationship and the mentoring. And we didn't expect the Big Brothers Big Sisters to work on schoolwork. We knew the children's grades improved by having a big, but it wasn't really where our focus was. So getting back at the Children's Museum was where I got to be back on the education side of things, which is where my training was from, and my degree, and from what my mother made me appreciate about early childhood learning. So that was a great experience. Then from there, I got an email one day and was connected with Sylvia Oberly, who is a legend in this town. I mean, I don't know. What's the right term to use when describing Sylvia? So I got connected with her.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Sylvia's stepdaughter Kim was my fullback when I played Optimus soccer.
I've heard.
Yeah, I was the only idiot that was dumb enough to play goalkeeper, and Kim was a fullback, and her sister Shelly later joined the team as a halfback. And let me tell you something. I haven't seen Shelly, but I see Kim occasionally, and I think she's over in Durham. But, Kim is like a FIFA Ladies World Cup referee.
Right. Yeah, I've heard like soccer's in their blood.
Great family. My folks did a couple homes with Habitat, one in honor of my brother right when he had passed away, and then my mom had also done one. And, great organization. Sylvia just is awesome there.
Right. She's not a large woman by any means. She's a little petite thing, but is a powerhouse and walks head and shoulders above anybody else.
Yeah, she was great for that organization. I was obviously sad when she decided to retire.
Absolutely. But before she retired, I always say your last great decision was hiring me. But no, she, I thought I was just going to go meet her and be introduced to her. And which I was like, I have to take this opportunity to meet Sylvia Oberlin, sit down and talk to her. Like, I can't not do this.
Right.
And my boss and friend Elizabeth at the time said, so Pam, when she offers you a job, we'll talk about that then. And I said, I'm going to have a conversation with her. Like, I'm not even giving her my resume. She said, when she offers you the job, we'll talk. So yeah, it just was a great opportunity to go to an organization. And like I said, got to be reconnected a lot with the families that we worked with the Big Rosy Big Sisters, because we would refer families to Habitat a lot to get their own homes and to have that home ownership, realizing the dream. So that was, wow, that was a great, great time. Sylvia, getting to learn underneath her and work for that organization, just the hands-on. I had somebody say, a person of faith, say, if Jesus was to volunteer for a nonprofit in current day, it would be Habitat.
Yeah, because he's a carpenter.
Makes sense, right?
Right, yeah. So,
and he loved being amongst the people. I mean, when you're on a Habitat build, it's the best blend of people you can probably find, between skilled labor, people who know nothing, different demographics, ages. It's a great blend.
Well, as I said, I was sad when she left. I don't know. Didn't she hire Kelly too? Met her?
She did. She did.
So that might have been one of the better decisions.
That was before me. So she could, that was a great decision, but one of her last best decision. Because after that, she decided to retire, which was not a good decision. But
what did you do? What did you do after? So you did the Kaleideum fundraiser, and then you went to Habitat. How long were you at Habitat?
I was there 3 years and some change. Yeah.
Okay. Sylvia leaves, and then you decide, where do you go now?
So let's stay at Habitat just a little bit longer, because one of the things that Sylvia told me probably week one on the job was, there's a thing called Faith Build. And Habitat Forsyth in Forsyth County had received award under Sylvia many years beforehand, where they had the first house built in collaboration with the 3 largest world religions: Muslim, Islam, Judaism, and the Christian faith.
Right.
And she said, I want to do it again. We've not figured out how to bring it back and do a faith build again. And so that was my expectation day one. And so I said, okay, I can do this. I said, I love churches. I love God. My dad's a pastor. I was like, I can do this. Religion major from Wake Forest. Like, I've been in a lot of these faith buildings and worship centers around this town for a long time. But I said, who's going to help me really drive this home, make it successful? I text Nigel Austin, former Big Brother, also on my caseload. And I said, this is your caseworker calling. I need a meeting. And he sits down, has me come over to his office at Black Laboratory Theater. We sit down. He dials his pastor, Pastor Rivers, and said, will you host this gathering and invite all the Black pastors in town? And will you invite some other people? And we got to do this faith build thing for Habitat. And it was wildly successful, because people love coming together, learning about each other, putting aside differences for a common goal. And we built a house every single year with a collaboration of faith, interracial, and interfaith.
Yeah, and you got the digits of the right people. I've learned from I go to Augsburg, and we helped out with the shelter, and I found out very quickly that it's kind of like you were saying you like to go to your nonprofit parties. All the faith leaders like to help each other out.
Oh, absolutely. Augsburg is a great one that partners with a lot of them. Yeah.
All right. So what do you do?
The homeless shelters, the little network of homeless.
Yeah.
That's another prime example of how we could not serve this community without our faith.
Well, the overflow shelters are where, and let's get props out where it is. When the overflow shelters came out, Wendy Taylor, who you know, Wendy, her son-in-law worked at Rubbermaid. So I called him up and said, hey, what kind of deal can you get me? So all of the overflow shelters have these white bins. Those were donated by Rubbermaid. They wouldn't let me pay for them. I went in my Honda Pilot. I had over 100 bins with the tops and everything in the car and drove them back from Charlotte. I had just enough room for me to steer. I couldn't look out either way or anything. I just got on the expressway and just kept driving back. But that was all donated because Wendy made a phone call to her son-in-law who said, well, I'm not going to charge you for them. And so Newell
Wow. I
Rubbermaid.
did not know that story. That's a great story.
That's Newell Rubbermaid gave those to us.
Wow. See?
But
make a phone call.
Yeah, make the phone call. So let's talk about where we are now. So, I mean, where'd you go after?
After Habitat, I went to Goodwill Industries in Northwest North Carolina. So the joke was like I kept getting 1 mile closer to my house. I live up on the north side of town near Rural Hall, Bethania.
Right.
And so we started off downtown with Big Brothers Big Sisters, went a little bit closer downtown with Kaleideum, then came to Habitat, just right up University Parkway in the Boston Thurman neighborhood. Came less than a mile to Goodwill, and did marketing and communications there on Art Gibble's team, another huge mentor for nonprofit leaders in this town, where the Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina covers 31 counties in North Carolina, so a third of the state. So I got to travel some. My son is a student at UNC Asheville, so got to see him. They have a huge facility up there in Asheville, lots of stores. Got to go to Boone, Marion, all the way down to the Statesville area, Salisbury.
Unfortunately, I had to work with Dana Conti.
Yeah.
Great guy.
He always had an idea about how to market. So he was not on the marketing team, but he had a lot of ideas for the marketing team.
Goodwill sponsored Real Estate Radio when we did it for a while. And, with the come drop off the pod and use it to help yourself move in the sense of fill it up with stuff you were going to donate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I got to say that, going to Goodwill, I was on the other side of the education piece. That with Kaleideum, you kind of start at early childhood education. Well, with Goodwill, you're talking about workforce development, education. Their Access in our high school is one of my favorite programs that they have, because it's for folks who did not graduate from high school due to different situations. One of it was had a kidney disease and couldn't graduate. Another one was this mom had to drop out because she started having to work to support her family. And then she watched her children graduate, and her children said, Mom, you've got to graduate. So in her 40s, she went back and got a high school diploma. So when you do things like that, it exponentially changes the earnings and your value to employers. So, I mean, with Goodwill, I got to be on the opposite side of education and talk about high school trade. I mean, I'm a firm believer, coming from the farm in Madison County, not everyone's meant to go to college. If we did not have the trades and the skill set, none of us would be surviving right now, because those are the valued employees, the essential employees right now, those that are learning those trades and those skills.
Right. Yeah. I got up
that tour you just gave us.
Huh?
That tour you just gave us. It was a good example.
My daughter's going to be coming out to hang probably here in a minute, because Mama's got to do something. So, and I want to make sure she could get in. So let's see this now. Once, this was the one stop that where you mentioned earlier that I thought you would say that the most interactions with people that you'd seen through different things because of the workforce training. Do they still have, you guys still do some clothing for interviews and things like that and stuff like that on the second floor?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, all of the Goodwill gets a good and a bad rap all the time. It's you're giving them stuff and they're selling it for a profit and all that stuff, and the person's making too much money. And honestly, Goodwill helps. I mean, it's so awesome that I can take the stuff. It's convenient. You're going to be dealing with someone that probably has some sort of a community service aspect as a volunteer in some way, shape, or form in some cases, or they're trying to get some social capital in, et cetera. And, that money's being put back into the coffers to help out on, training.
That's right.
The fun story
from high school education to skills to just jobs. I mean, think about how many people they employ across the 31 counties. So my year there was being a part of a great team, eye-opening, got to travel across the state some, and really work with some great people. And like you said, got to see the other side of it, see some of the people that I had been working with for years. And I will say that my biggest fear being in nonprofits, and as I got to be more on leadership teams or more responsibility of the organization, was that I was going to lose that direct client interaction, because I started off as a case manager with a caseload, going directly into homes, doing home visits, interviewing parents and children and volunteers. And I always was afraid that the further I got in my career, I was going to lose that connection with why I wanted to be there and the people and the passion. But even at Goodwill, and now at Financial Pathways, I haven't lost that. I could walk in the door at Goodwill and come face to face with the people we were serving every day. There were employees of Goodwill who had a past that could tell you a story, who had received services from the organization and now worked for the organization. So I am so thankful that everywhere I've been, I haven't been able to lose the who and the what.
Well, it's what motivates you. You know, what's your why? And what I will say is my only question for you about your Goodwill time is do you ever get to go into the bargain bin room before they release the hounds? I mean, it's crazy. Dana told us about that. You guys have a special section that they'll bring a cart in one at a time, and there are pickers there just to go crazy on what's left over.
So those are the outlets, and there are 3 across the 31 counties. There's one on Peters Creek Parkway, one in Conover, and one in Asheville. And there are rules of engagement, so to speak. And they really will roll out this huge bin, and people stand back, and they know they are not to lean in and touch it until those wheels are locked in.
Right.
And if you don't obey by the rules of the outlet, then
go to the line, bye.
They will take care of each other. And it's amazing. I mean, but I stood there one day and I watched a guy pull out everything that was denim. And I said, well, what's he going to, you never know why or who the people are, but they said they pay by the pound.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's 3 of those locations, but it just gives the organization just one more chance, to bring in that, investment that the donors have given and invest it back in programs for the community.
All right. So then now where do we go from Goodwill? Because
so through Goodwill and realizing that I needed to come back home and stay a little bit local, particularly with a son starting middle school, doing sports and baseball games starting at 3:30 in the afternoon, I needed some flexibility. So I started taking on some contract work. And our community lost a dear man, Ward Miller, last fall. And it was about that time. And someone reached out to me about helping the community care center with their event, the year-end event, because Ward had been their development director after he retired from the banking industry here in town.
Right.
So I was able at that time to step in, do contract work with them and a couple of organizations last fall. So that kind of let me figure out how I can take everything I've learned, utilize my relationships, and help multiple organizations. Also during that time, I reconnected with a dear friend of ours. I'll share her with you. But she and I went through Leadership Winston-Salem together in 2009 when I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters. She was at Financial Pathways, but she was leading the Center for Home Ownership, Phyllis Caldwell, now Phyllis Caldwell George. And she is the CEO of Financial Pathways of the Piedmont. And she said, Pam, what do I have to do to get you on my team? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, I'm doing all these other things. She's like, yes. And I think her exact words, well, we understand that Winston-Salem is Pam's playground, and you're having fun and you're helping a lot of people, but I think we would be good on the same team. And I said, I would love to be on your team. Like, I've watched everything you've done, and you're now CEO.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's now CEO running this great team, and Financial Pathways has been a great partner. They were still a partner with Habitat, so they do the financial courses for the homeowners that are required to become a homeowner at Habitat. So they deliver that. For those homeowners. They're a partner with Goodwill at the Prosperity Center. So they've already been a strong partner of organizations that I've worked for and just been able to stay in contact with that team. So I knew they were a great team. And I thought, you've got everybody you need. You don't need me. And she's like, no, I need you. So she's allowing me to continue being a mercenary and to do contract work and consult with other nonprofits. I fundraise for one organization, and that is Financial Pathways of the Piedmont. So I'm using those relationships and really working with them, and thrilled to be their chief development officer. I could not ask for a better boss than Phyllis during this time. It's been great for myself and my family.
Do you guys do Center for Home Ownership? Are you involved with them?
Yeah, so Center for Home Ownership is one of the programs at Financial Pathways. Senior Financial Care is another program at Financial Pathways, and the Representative Payee Program. So they have several programs that fit underneath that overarching Financial Pathways of the Piedmonts. And they cover, they've got clients from about 13, 14 different counties of North Carolina, hugely focused here locally. We're seeing a huge increase in calls around foreclosure prevention. People are even interested in home ownership. I mean, the interest rates are extremely low right now, so people are still wanting to realize that is their dream. Getting lots of questions about student loans and other debt management things. So we have waived all of our fees for the programs. We received a grant from the Combined Fund that was being coordinated by the Winston-Salem Foundation here recently for COVID-19 relief. And so there's a Combined Fund with Realms America, Legacy, the city, the county, Truist. I mean, I would miss somebody if I try to name them all. But the Winston-Salem Foundation administered it, and we got funding partially to cover waiving the fees for all of the programs at Financial Pathways, because we don't want anything to be a hindrance of people getting the resources and the information and the professional counseling that they need during this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will tell you, I know Ruth Hudspeth does a lot with the Center for Home Ownership, and a good dear friend. In fact, I'm getting ready to have her on the show. She's just awesome, and she's always talking about that. And of course, I met Phyllis through some realtor event, I'm sure, and she's just a great lady too. Well, what do you want people to know about the financial pathways and stuff that I don't think that the average person's going to know?
Well, I've learned so much since I've been there, and I've only been there since January, so I've got a long way to go. Phyllis truly is the expert on all of these, but I want people to know that you're not in this alone, that those counselors, I sit on a hallway where several of the counselors, and I hear phone calls of an elderly man. He's on the phone and he cannot get Spectrum to understand that he's moved to a place that now the cable is included, and that he's still going to have cable, but not in his name. So we have counselors that will step in and advocate. We had another guy that came in before all this happened, and we're all working remotely, and they're all getting phone calls. No one has stopped working. They're still helping clients out and still calling them and checking on them. And one guy, they do a benefits checkup with seniors, aging. Anyone over 60 years old can come in and get this service, and did a benefits checkup and found out he was a veteran and wasn't receiving his VA benefits. So sometimes you just need a professional licensed counselor who knows what resources are out there and what you're eligible for and how to go after it. I did not know that program existed. We also have another program with folks that are receiving Social Security funds, but they're not in a position to be able to administer those funds themselves. So we make sure their rent gets paid, that their utilities get paid. Right. So the money will come to us, and we're able to be their payee and make sure they're on the same track, so they don't become homeless, because these are adults with disabilities, or they're in situations of mental illness where they would not be able to keep themselves in a home if it wasn't for somebody managing their funds and being an advocate for them and making sure deadlines aren't missed. And during this time, these vulnerable populations, the elderly, 60 and plus, it's really unfortunate. There's still scammers out there that when we are fighting this pandemic, people are still trying to take other people's money. Yep. And we need our counselors at Financial Pathways to still be there, because these vulnerable populations of the elderly or special needs, they're experiencing stress in a different way. If I am sitting here in my home with 2 boys, a full-time job, great friends and resources like you, like I don't, if we could go a year and not talk, John, but if I needed something, I would find you, and I would know how to help navigate myself through some kind of struggle. I've done it before as a single mom. I had to go and sit and apply for food stamps and apply for that child care voucher and get on Section 8 because I couldn't live on campus with a child. So I know how hard it is to navigate some of these systems, and you don't have to do it alone. And that's what we want people to know at Financial Pathways, is that this is tough times, but you know, the cliche is now we're all separate, but we're not alone, and Financial Pathways is there to help.
Yeah. And so I want to put what I'll do is in the show notes, I'll put how to get in touch with via the website and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so we got just a few more minutes, about 10 more minutes. I wanted to catch you up on a couple things here. One is, so you're also helping another organization out. So can we give them a little props? And then we got the hard questions that I didn't tell you what those are.
Oh no, you said there were 3.
Yeah, no, there's still 2 more. So
okay, so the other one I have a long-term contract with. I stayed on with Community Care Center when they lost their staff member last fall. The entire community lost ward. I stayed on with the Community Care Center. I'm grateful. This is my first time being in healthcare. You might have seen a trend of my nonprofit career with children, education, families, human services, and this Community Care Center gives me the first chance that I've had to be in healthcare. They are the largest free clinic in the state, and they provide quality healthcare and dental care and medicines to people who are uninsured or who don't qualify for insurance. So some of our neighbors who are working but don't have health insurance, they can go to the Community Care Center and get quality healthcare, dental care, and medicines for free.
all right, and so we're gonna put both of these organizations in fact, maybe what we might want to do is why don't we put all of them in there?
Let's throw it there, all of them.
And links so people, if they heard something, they want to get involved. So if you'll send me those when we get done.
I'll be glad to.
All right, so we are friends, and I hate to do this to you. So you came here. Huh? When you came here, what year do you think you came to Winston?
Came to Winston in 1995.
All right. Do you remember downtown Winston-Salem in 95?
Yes, I do.
Did you go there?
No, I did not.
So how much has Winston-Salem changed since you came here in 95?
It has changed tremendously. And I cannot go without giving one of my favorite places downtown a shout out, because people know this about me, and they're like, she's not going to go a conversation without talking about this. One thing for me that has stayed pretty constant in downtown, when I first started going downtown, it was to Sixth and Vine. And that is going
out and back on the patio.
It was like, we were young. It was like our club spot in a way. Now it's the Thursday afternoon with the girls, half price wine with Kathleen. And Kathleen's dad, a lot of people don't know this, Kathleen's dad, Dave, we call him Super Dave, was one of the founders of Habitat here locally. So Kathleen's dad built the bar in Sixth and Vine. Excellent carpenter, was a professional man, but has the hobby of carpentry and has been a long time Habitat volunteer, knew the founder of Habitat International and helped him start the local chapter of Habitat here locally. So I feel like I will always have this connection. There she is. I will always have this connection with Sixth and Vine, because they were my favorite place to go downtown, and still is. So downtown has changed a lot, to walk around, to do the restaurant hopping, to have multiple choices of where you can get half-price wine or drinks, and to know, Adam Andrews with his multiple restaurants down there. When you do a nonprofit event, all of us, he's the first phone call we make, because he's going to give us something. He's going to donate food. He's going to do something for our event.
Yep.
So it's a good spot.
Yeah. So say hey to Pam. All right. Give me one more question. I got one more question. Okay, give me 1 more minute. All right. So here it is.
That one wasn't that bad though.
I know. This one's the thinker. You ready?
Okay.
Where do you want to see Winston-Salem go?
Oh goodness, my utopia, right? So Winston-Salem it was interesting that now I've been in Winston-Salem longer than back home.
Right.
And so this is home. So this is where I've chosen to raise my boys. I was not raised here. I had an excellent raising on the farm, but I want to see a Winston-Salem where education is valued,
Right.
where education is not something for those who have the most resources. I want to see a Winston-Salem where access and inclusion are not even things we have to talk about. It just is.
Right.
I want to see a Winston-Salem where it does not matter the zip code you were born in, your country of origin, how much you make, you have access to everything Winston-Salem has to offer. Because I would not have chose to raise my boys here if I did not believe that Winston-Salem is the best community for us. But there's still people here who are not able to take advantage of everything Winston-Salem has to offer. That's my Winston-Salem.
You know, I went to a Love Out Loud event. Lou Baldwin invited me to it, and had just a great time. And a statement was made that I had never heard before. If you're born in Winston-Salem poor, you'll die in Winston-Salem poor. And it's very, it resonated with me. And so I really hope that your dream is one that we can achieve, because I think people often think they have to give something, and it's not anything to do with money or things like that. It's just this right here. If you give a hand, if you pull someone up, if you teach them something, I mean, of course we need the money. I mean, goodness gracious, please donate. But I've been so blessed with people that have just reached back to grab, and in the leadership things that I've started to do with the realtors in different associations and organizations. It's all because someone else offered to help.
Right. And it's not just the help. It's doing it in a spirit of doing with and not for.
Correct.
And just like you did with Chris all those years ago, you listened to him and you heard him. We have to listen and do with, and not just do it because we think somebody needs something.
Correct. And what I will tell you is you are a person that is really doing that stuff, and you don't see it because it's you, but Pam, you have changed Winston-Salem, and I appreciate you, and I thank you. And with that, I will say we will conclude our interview. And if you need to get in touch with Pam, we will have all her information up there. But all I can say is thank you from the citizens of Winston-Salem that you've done so much to change for not only one person, but for a whole bunch. And I hope that other people will come and find us on our Camel City Chat page and like and subscribe and all that.
All that good stuff. Yeah. You know, John, you'll appreciate this as a realtor. I've always said people would see me and with traveling with Goodwill, like, you moving back home to Asheville, you moving? I said, you know, my mortgage is my longest relationship. Going on 17 years, Winston-Salem is stuck with me. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm committed. I'm here to do all this work with you, John.
Well, I appreciate you. You let us know how we can help. And like I said, we'll be back next week with more Camel City Chat. Our guest today, of course, was Pam Anglin, and we're going to have all the information that she talked about in our show notes. And we will be with you next week. Thanks for watching. And again, thank you, Pam.